was in a chow line at the George R. Brown Center in Houston on Christmas Eve of 2017. There was a woman behind me. She had three children, two boys and a girl, I believe. They were teenagers and they had their cell phones. And we had to wait in the clearing area for a substantial amount of time before we were allowed into the area where we were to get the meal that had been provided for homeless families and homeless people as part of the assistance to homeless people in the city of Houston that year. This is my second year. That was my second year participating in the Christmas Eve feeding situation regarding the homeless. And it was different from the year before. We were congregated or aggregated in a different part of the facility. This was after it had been decommissioned from the emergency response connected to Hurricane Harvey. And there was a much different technology set up in the clearing area where we stood before we were allowed to go in and eat. In the cordoned off line that snaked around before we were allowed to clear out of that holding area to go into the place where we were to get the meal and the other things they were providing, there were areas of the floor that had numbers on them. And I noticed the technology in the ceiling. It was provided by a Cisco system, and they were strategically and very identifiably placed in a very specific manner. And I intuitively engaged with an understanding of what was going on and how that security and surveillance technology in there was working. I was keeping track at the time. And who was allowed to clear at what time. And I had a brief conversation in front of the woman with her children. And I just would say things as they came to be about the kinds of things that young people their age might want to know about technology. See, if I had children that were that age, they would know those things. They would have the same sort of astuteness. They would understand what was going on. They would have the means by which they could protect themselves if they needed to. 3 times while I was in there, somebody got triggered by a cell phone message right as they came to a strategically marked point in the floor. They literally had these numbers. It looked like somebody had put them down. It marked off maybe areas where they would have put some sort of booth or some sort of feature as part of the alleged emergency service provision. This was the area where people that presumably had need of disaster assistance after Hurricane Harvey were kept for up to 2 months. It was the same clearing area. But I was standing in line literally, and I heard the trigger, and they literally targeted a man. They literally called the man by his name and then targeted him so that he got upset and started yelling at the woman behind him. And then the security had to come and de-escalate and kick the woman he was with out. He blew up at the woman behind him. They cleared her out. And that was one of 3 encounters I watched while I was there. And I'm there with other people and I'm remarking on it out loud. By the time all of a sudden something had been lifted, because whatever the big bundle was they were clearing on us had cleared. We were able to go. They made sure to stop me with that woman right before we left. And then the woman at the door on her cell phone who fit a racial profile, which by the way was different than me, and the one with the woman with the 3 kids, which was different than mine, made sure to take a call, connected what was going on there, and literally said, "Oh, you mean Pasadena? Yeah, okay." I tried to talk to the woman after that, and somebody came up while I was in the line. I tried to talk to the woman. I said, I introduced myself formally. I was like, "What just happened? If you need to contact me." And then somebody came up and said they needed to talk to that woman and her children. They had something special to give them. They literally came up and pulled that woman and her 3 children out of line from behind me and took them somewhere else. And I went inside, and they wanted us to play like we were at the USO show. Like after we'd been in that holding center that was simulating What was simulated in there? They wanted us to go into the USO show. Oh, hallelujah! We've been relieved. They've come. They've rescued us. What are you going to tell your children